On this episode, it snowed in the area this week. We talk about how to manage the crops and grain after it snows. Make sure you are thinking about next year. The highest quality seed is already in the bin, and we have a big supply of both Enlist E3 and LibertyLink GT27 soybeans.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Cup of Joe, Season 2, Episode number 14. Today we have Turk and Ben. A lot of things on farmers' minds right now with the weather we're having. So let's start with Ben.
Well, one of the things that I had prepared before our recent little weather event that we had was nitrogen application and soil temps and things like that. But I think that got put on the back burner with 3 to 4 inches of snow that we got on Thursday. But I did want to update everybody that soil temperatures in northwest Iowa are at 39 degrees, and then if you basically cut a diagonal down to southeast Iowa, they're at 43, and it just kind of transitions from northwest down to southeast. The temperatures warm up. So fall nitrogen application for anhydrous is probably, like I said, put on the back burner because of snow in nearly half the state. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is what are the best ways to manage crops after we've been dealing with the snow and some of the problems that we see with soybeans and corn when we get into significant amount of snow on beans that are already in the field. So
and that is true for wet, rain events too, for that matter. Wet's wet.
Right, wet is wet, and this is a little bit different than what we were looking at last year, in my opinion, because with the cooler temperatures, we're going to be at a high of 28 or 29 degrees, I believe, today, and you don't see as much disease activity in cooler weather, but when the snow does melt off, you will see those, you'll see that fungal pathogen. It's kind of like in a holding pattern, I guess, with the snow that's on it right now. So
it's in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I guess it's in the refrigerator for now, and the fungal pathogens aren't going to be moving as fast. But we do need to get the snow off of it at some point in time before we're able to harvest. And there's lots of things that we have to deal with because of the snow came before our hard freeze. We have to deal with compaction issues. The soil's not going to dry out near as quickly. Possibility of thawing and then freezing again. You're going to have a lot more crop debris in your harvest sample because the pods are wet or the husks are wet and they'll stick to the grain after you've had a thaw then a freeze on stuff. So you have to be careful and cognizant of how your storage is, because the more foreign matter that you have, the harder it is to store that grain. Some of the other things, Iowa State had an article here. They must have had some pretty late snow events in 2000 and 2001, and they took 2-year averages from 2000 and 2001 on yield loss from November all the way through April. And you start off in December with an average of 22% yield loss between those 2 years in December, and that works its way all the way to 32 or somewhere in that range by the time we get to April. So there's not a significant amount of yield loss. It kind of depends on how much moisture we have and how many of those pods break open during that time frame and fall down. So we'll be curious to see what the weather hopefully straightens back up in the next week and things melt off and get cold again for us, I guess, so that we can dry these beans off and get them in the bin.
So what about the beans in the bin that we pushed a little bit to get beans out before this snow event that are high moisture, 15, 16%? How do you manage that?
Rule of thumb, 20 degrees below the temperature that you harvest them, right?
Got to get them cooled off. Got to get that core out and get that bin leveled off. But that's the most important thing, is to get that temperature down from wherever you harvest them, especially if you were harvesting a little bit wetter than normal. And like you said, you probably got a little bit more debris than what you normally would in that bin as well. So most important thing is get that bin cored and get that bin leveled off. And I know there'll be a lot of folks that are going to be that if they were lucky enough to get their beans harvested and got them put in the bin a little wetter than normal, they're going to be focusing and talking and thinking more about the corn. Don't forget about those beans in that bin. Keep an eye on them, because they're worth a lot of money, and that quality can't go downhill in a hurry if you don't keep it managed right up front. Don't forget about them.
Yeah, that moisture tends to migrate to the center and then up to the top, and so by leveling it allows that moisture to
And getting that core down
pour
and
out, take a load out.
Yep.
And I know even in our seed production, we're even in a normal year when we harvest 12% soybeans, we never leave a bin not leveled off because we're concerned about that moisture migration. Because you always have in the sample, that's the average moisture. You're going to have some beans wetter, you're going to have some beans drier, and so you have to deal with that.
So this is the first time we've dealt with this kind of a situation, is it, Joe? There was one year, and I can't remember exactly what year it was, that we did not get our beans out, and we got enough snow that they stayed on, and you couldn't combine beans. And then we got that actually a December thaw, and we were combining beans between Christmas and New Year's.
Yeah, it's either 95 or 96 winter, and it was so wet. Farmers tried tracks, they tried drying beans, they tried everything, and lo and behold, on Christmas Eve, it dropped down to 10, 15 below zero. There was no snow on the ground. Soybeans freeze-dried. They were around 13, 14%. They ran the combines 24/7 and got the crop out. And, from a seed quality standpoint, once soybeans get ripe, physiologically mature, every day they're out in the field, they're deteriorating. So, one of the things that we look at when a year like this is we actually categorize which ones got harvested on time versus ones that are delayed. And obviously that affects germination because like Ben, you're talking about all those fungal pathogens that start affecting not only in the field, but if you have higher moisture in the bin. And so, seed quality could be a big question mark this year for seed companies. And I can tell you, our system is we are very conservative. We only project out 47 bushel yield, and I can tell you right now our seed fields are yielding in the 60s from what we've harvested so far. So we tend not to oversell our positions because we know that's an uncomfortable conversation to have with farmers when they order early. And my advice to farmers, the way seed companies work is the beans that are the best quality, they clean first because you start selling from the top and then you go down the line. So that means if you want the highest quality seed, which will be the first step to higher yields next year, order early and take delivery early. That ensures you the highest quality seed. And also treated seed could be very, very important again this year, particularly products that have thibenzol, TBZ in them. That's really critical for scrubbing the surface of the seed with the fungal pathogens that can be on it. So we're kind of looking at a little bit right now of a repeat of last year where there's going to be seed companies coming back and saying, hey, we don't have the seed that you ordered. We oversold our position because they're not as conservative as Mershman seeds. We produced more seed this year, so we have a bigger pile to look at, so we can kick off and throw off the bins and germs that aren't there, so that we can consistently produce the highest quality seed for our customers. So I know that farmers are very focused about getting this year's crop out, not worrying about next year's crop, but you cannot have tunnel vision because when you do that, you're going to miss opportunities on cash discounts, early deliveries, and things like that. So you have to stay in the game, even though that crop will come out, and it always does. But we just didn't need this stress. I mean, we had a terrible spring. We were hoping to get rewarded with a good fall, and we just did not get it. And so we'll work through the problems. We'll keep you updated on seed quality, but I've seen some of the germs that we've had back so far in the upper 90s. We're going to have some good quality seed this year, but I can't speak for the other seed companies.
The best seed's in the bin right now,
That's right.
And everything that's still out there in the field is going to be subject to deterioration.
It's got a big question mark on it. We don't know what it's going to be yet.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Well, be smart, and as far as we had a plot come back this past week with one of our customers who has a complete Asgrow lineup in it. He also had AgriGold soybeans in it, and he also had our complete lineup of Enlist and LibertyLink GT27s, and he averaged them all up, and Asgrow was the lowest of the four. Now, statistically speaking, literally no difference in the traits, and this was with conventional herbicides on, so all in the same plot, and on top of that, we had dicamba damage on our products, and the Extend products did not have any damage. So, and we were still a bushel and a half better. But statistically speaking, no difference. So
The shield drag question is,
yeah, it's just bogus, totally bogus. I mean, it's just, I mean, that's what our research from MS Tech says. The same thing matches up with what we're seeing in the field. We know we've had tremendous yields on beans that have been harvested early. There's some of the best yields that we've seen with the LibertyLink GT27 and Enlist E3. So I really think that, when it comes down to the decision, you match the product to your field based on your limiting factors, whether it be phytophthora, whether it be stem canker, or whether it be frog eye leaf spot, whatever it is that holds your yields back. But the trait has nothing to do with yield. And so the LibertyLink GT27 and Enlist E3 offer the farmer, all those advantages of less restrictions, and of course with Illinois with their latest cutoff date now in June, to really put farmers in a box to use the Extend system. We have a better option.
neighbor friendly.
Definitely neighbor friendly, and we're starting to see farmers taking a look real hard, and we're starting, we're picking up some of that Extend business because farmers are tired of fighting the wind and restrictions. I
was out in the field, and Ben's been out in the field, and we're getting a lot of questions about that issue, and they're seeing that it is moving around, and they are looking for a neighbor-friendly solution that will guarantee them weed control as well.
Oh, definitely. So don't disengage from next year. Ben was talking about anhydrous application. I mean, this weather, if you're waking up on Thursday morning and seeing all the snow out there in Iowa and in a big area, you're pretty depressed. But the sun's going to come out. There's not a lot of moisture in snow. It's not as bad as we think. It'll get better. But definitely do not disengage from thinking about next year, particularly with some of the products that you definitely want on your farm. So lots of negative things going on there, but there's also some positive. The price of Liberty herbicide has gone down, so it makes our systems work much more better as far as cost effective. So I think there's some positive things going on, and we definitely don't want to disengage about thinking about 2020.
And it sounds like we're going to have a couple weeks of open harvest weather here coming up as well. So getting highs in the 40s and lows in the 30s for the Iowa area, and further south, I know they probably got a little bit of snow too, but I imagine it'll be gone very quickly if it isn't already. And so it'll, I imagine this is going to be definitely a year that everybody's going to be pushing the limits, and so thinking about that, make sure that you're being safe.
Yep.
Get your sleep and be aware all the time of safety.
Well, anything else to add?
Should be good. Lots of plot data coming in. So we got Pam here in the office working on plot book for us. So be looking for the data as soon as we get it done.
All of the products that I've seen so far coming through have been yielding quite well. I mean, no disappointments. Seed growers are very happy. And a lot of these beans weren't planted until June, and 60 plus bushel yield. So I mean, that's impressive. So I don't think it's all bad, but it sure is frustrating.
Yep.
There you go.
Well, till next week, as always, thank you for watching, and thank you for your business, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
From sun up to sun.